Welcome back to Maximum News. Sorry we didn't have an episode last week. There were technical difficulties, just scheduling, mostly my fault. But we're back today with a very quick entry in Maximum News. We're just going to be talking primarily about the Sony thing, maybe one thing after that. What do I mean by Sony thing? Well, in case you've been living under a rock in terms of the world of gaming, there was this huge Sony thing that happened yesterday, the Sony Showcase. Is that like a separate thing from the Sony State of Play? Or is it the same thing and they're just calling it the Sony Showcase?
They cover
side?
different things at both. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like one's a little bit more like, hey, here's what is currently going on, and here's the other one's, hey, here's what's coming up, kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense actually. It's just to my primordial little brain, I just think, oh, Sony's showing off games, so I should probably pay attention. So they showed off, like Saib said, a whole bunch of games that are upcoming, and we're going to go through all the different announcements, all the different gameplay that we saw. Before we started recording, I suggested to Saib that we give both of our highlights of the show. I'm just going to go first, and he'll go, and then we'll go through each of the games that were announced individually. Or not necessarily announced, because some of them we already knew were coming, but we just saw footage from. So for me personally, yesterday, when I saw that Insomniac was working on a Wolverine game, I nearly lost... I can't swear on this show, but let me tell you, it just made me so happy. It just made my mind just go in a bunch of positive, creative directions, because one of the best gaming experiences that I've had in the last 5 years was playing Insomniac Spider-Man back in 2018. That game is bloody awesome, and I'm going to be talking about that in a second, in regards to another thing that was announced. But just the idea that studio, which has been cranking out nothing but quality for the last several years, they recently came up with Rift Apart, which looks amazing. Still have yet to play it. Spider-Man, Sunset Overdrive, very underrated game in my opinion. And the idea that they're going to do something with Wolverine, my mind immediately went to, okay, imagine if they did a Wolverine game, but the gameplay was sort of like God of War, where like the combat, swinging his claws around, sort of like Kratos swings his axe around, and then with the Last of Us type of emotional story, which we know we can get if if Logan was anything to go by. If any studio is going to be able to pull it off, if any studio has demonstrated that they really care about presenting these characters in the greatest possible way, it's Insomniac. That's why, just with a simple Wolverine teaser, I was totally blown away. And then, just sort of as a cheat, another thing alongside that was obviously the announcement of Spider-Man 2. We knew it was coming. We knew that Venom was going to be in it if the post-credit scene from the first game was any indication. Nonetheless, it's still just good to know that it's coming, 2023. And also, please, God, let it be co-op. Let me play as Peter Parker or Miles Morales with a friend. And then this game will just be everything that I've ever wanted. Saib, just before we get your big game of the showcase, I just wanted to ask, is it either of these two? And regardless if it is or not, what did you think of those two announcements?
I think they're great, and I think these are the kinds of games that Sony should be focusing on. These are the kind of experiences that, if they don't want content that's, a little on the risque side or adult, they should just come out, say it, and then just go that way hard and stop the abuse and the absolute garbage that they have been doing for a very long time now, with a lot of developers and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong if they did that, but they're not being honest right now. They're pretending to care about the Japanese market, and they don't, and they've been failing there spectacularly. They say that they want a mix of titles on their thing, but then they censor everything that they can at the earliest opportunity. So yeah, just generally like a little annoyed at that kind of stuff, but I am glad that we are seeing some good stuff coming out of Sony, and more importantly, coming out of the studios that still make games for that platform. And Insomniac is a good studio, and they deserve all of the best praise, because they've been doing a really good job with the stuff that they've been doing. And I think that overall they've been improving and have been focusing in some really great places. So yeah, I am very excited about this. So yeah,
their approach to games, Insomniac, I mean, is sort of the ideal in terms of what we would collectively as gamers like to see more of. Just full experiences that aren't like drip fed to us years after release, sort of like the live service type games. Companies like Insomniac, companies like Sucker Punch from Software, other ones that make single player games like that, or just, properly attuned, fully fleshed out multiplayer experiences. Those are great. Insomniac's one of the leaders in that regard, and I cannot wait to support them with these games and many more that are coming after that. Now, I'm assuming that it wasn't either of these two games that was sort of your highlight, but what was your highlight of the showcase?
My highlight, and again, I do not play Sony only games. I do not have PlayStation. I have been boycotting them again for said reasons, mostly against the I work with a lot of Japanese game developers, and they have been treated horribly, absolutely horribly, by a lot of people at Sony, and it has cost some of them great amounts of stress and physical pain due to some of the shenanigans that they have been pulling there frequently. So I do not support them directly. I, however, notice that is a personal choice, and I have absolutely nothing against people enjoying the products, because when it comes to boycotts of that thing, you have to do as your conscience dictates, not what some influencer or mediaite or, worst of all, politician tells you to do, right? So you should be making those decisions on your own. I am, however, a big supporter of some of these games, though. I have met Christopher Judd on multiple occasions, and he is one of the nicest, one of the most awesome guys. He is a great father. He's a great actor. And he, of course, plays God of War, Kratos. And he is on a short list to play T'Challa and Black Panther. So, this is right now. I don't believe they're going that way. I think they're honoring the memory of the actor who passed away.
Yeah. Well, hold on a second. That'd be really weird, though. Like, no offense to Mr. Boseman, who was the original T'Challa, and he was a good-looking and beefy, type of superhero dude. But compared to Christopher Judge literally looks like a god in terms of his stature, and just to go from Boseman to Judge. It would be noticeable.
I think it would be kind of like one of those, because they're not and that's the thing, right? Is that they're not the same type of actor. They don't even physically look like the same as far as body type. They are, Christopher Judd has been a long time a bodybuilder, and he like you said, he's got the body of Kratos basically, and he's a really awesome fellow. I think that if they were ever to redo it or recast T'Challa, I think they would do it in the sense of this would be a different one from a different universe kind of thing, like a different dimensional kind of thing, and they wouldn't ever replace him the Prime, because I don't think they should, and I think they should build the story around that, and I think that is both an honorable memory, and the thing that I have been advocating for the most, a lot of us have been advocating the most for, is create new stories. Yeah. You don't have to replace and transition all of the old superheroes. Just create more of them. What happens if you go back in time to where there was half the superheroes that we have now? It's would you tell them to just, stop creating new ones? No, the new stories are what keeps this stuff current. And I think there are some heroes like Spider-Man that is brilliant, and that game looked really great. And I disagree with you. I don't want to play the Peter Parker version that you see in the game or the Max version. I want to play Miles Morales version. Yeah. I want to play the I always forget his name. The Nicolas Cage one, right? The what is that called? That noir, right? The noir, the French dark, black and white, grisly, that would be hilarious. He just pops in and he's like, I sense something on the wind. It's where's the wind coming from? We're in a room. That's seriously awesome. And I really
I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right, exactly. So I see that. I see the success of the Spider-Man game so far, and I'm really loving this. I think this is great because it means that at some point, this, being in the hands of such good game developers who are focusing on writing good story, I think there's nothing better for Spider-Man. I think that is a good thing for that. I think it's a great thing for Marvel, because when you have stupid ideas being made to do stupid things with people's favorite heroes, somebody doing, hey, we're just doing the thing that we've always done that everybody always loves about this hero, that's something that makes them go, oh, hey, maybe we should stick to doing what people love about these characters instead of butchering them. That's really cool. And I was really happy to see that. I was really happy to see the God of War thing. I enjoy whenever they're bringing something new to the table. The Alan Wake remaster, again, as much as I love new things coming to the table, I like when they, and this will kind of key into one of our other points here, I love to see a faithful remaster of other games. So like the Alan Wake thing, I thought that was pretty cool. Ghostwire Tokyo has come out and has shown that it's exactly the game that I thought it was. It's more combat heavy than most people were, anticipating. And I got in big trouble. I stated I was criticized for. I stated that what's that Death, God damn it, Death Stranding. I said that Death Stranding wasn't going to be a very actiony game, and that it would not be the kind of like fast-paced thing that people normally play on the PlayStation. That has the that it's going to be a lot more heady, and that it's not necessarily going to be the new. Like a lot of people were expecting, something a lot more faster paced, a lot more like combat, a lot more, less walking, less, extraordinarily confusing storyline, that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's like people were expecting something different. And when I first raised my hand and said, oh, hey, by the way, this isn't going to be what you think it's going to be, people took that to mean that something else, and I got in big trouble for that. So I'm and again, this just goes to show here that with Sony, you know what you're getting. You're getting big blockbustery kind of things normally, and that's what does the best in that market, because that's kind of what they've kind of nailed on. And I think that if that's what you're looking for, then that's what you go for. Something that's obviously not moddable. You play through it once or twice, and then that's it. That's the game. Maybe you go back and mess around with it every once in a while, but for the majority, that's what the platform offers, and they offer a fairly steady diet of this. With again, God of War, Spider-Man 2, and all this other stuff. It's looking like we're keeping up in that direction. So that
in that regard, yeah,
and that's great. That's fine. That's what it's there for. And again, if you're supporting them, that's what you're getting, and that's not a bad thing. That is a good thing. So yay! And for that. That's my good aspects of what we saw there. Some other stuff, all along that. Some of the other stuff that was kind of mentioned there, teased. It's like, we'll see. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves with Wolverine and some of this other stuff. I want to see more, because we don't want to overhype anything too much, because we saw what happens when you overhype.
I when it comes to Wolverine,
my favorite.
I agree with you.
One of the comic books that I actually hold. I don't know where my copy is, but it's one of my most favorite comic books ever. Was the Wolverine and Witchblade crossover. For whatever reason, I just fell in love with it, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's one of those key it's one of my out of the comics that I own. It's one of the best ones that I have. And it's like yes, I really like this, even though it was a one-off and it wasn't it wasn't super canon. But I just thought it was a great concept, and I really loved it.
Cool. Yeah. And just one other thing, we're gonna talk about some of the things that we weren't too impressed by in a second, but I just want to give a special shout out to Project Dave. It was the second game that they showed at the showcase. It looks very much within sort of like my wheelhouse. It sort of looks like an evolution of sort of like the Nier Automata type gameplay, like very fast paced, kinetic, strictly just using your sword and beating the crap out of stuff. Plus, it looks like it's in a post apocalyptic world that looks gorgeous. I love the enemy design. That we saw in that trailer. And plus, that's how you do a trailer, by the way.
Mhm.
You can show the cutscenes, you can show the cinematics, but you also show the gameplay, which that trailer did. So kudos to you. And based on that trailer, I'm very, very curious to see how this turns out. It looks great. Now, you have something that you want to say about KOTOR.
Yeah, so KOTOR, guys, I hate to be a wet blanket. I really do. But this is not the KOTOR that we were hoping for. This is the worst case scenario KOTOR, if all of my inside information is correct. And I brought this up once or twice before. I raised some concerns, and then we had the vast majority of them confirmed in the last day and a half here. Not all of them confirmed, sorry, just a lot of them confirmed and given additional credence and confirmation to. It's very concerning. It is very worrisome, and it is something that I'm loath to talk about, because this is not a good thing. This is not what gamers want. And that,
yeah, because when you hear anything regarding Knights of the Old Republic, which many people consider to be the greatest Star Wars game ever made, you just want to embrace that. You want to just thank God that something like this is happening. We don't want to throw a wet blanket over it, but you got to take the good information with the bad information sometimes.
Yeah. So this isn't good. Base, I'll give you the skinny. We're not getting a faithful remake. We are getting a reimagining. And by reimagining, I will give you guys a list of some of the things that will be changing. Characters and character design will be changing significantly. You will not be able to tell some characters are the same. If you line them up without names, put them beside each other, sure, some characters, like obviously Revan, is the as far as like the official Revan goes, right? Like is I don't want to spoil anything, but the Revan, it's the main guy in the trailer that you saw. That's Revan. That Revan is, that's still more or less the same, visually speaking.
Right.
However, there's going to be other characters that you're going to take a stick with that character's, cutout on it, put it beside another character, and you're going to say, are these two the same characters? And you're going to say, no, they look completely different. It's a different race. It's, like different species, like literal alien species. It doesn't look the same. They're wildly disproportionate body types. They don't look anything like the other one. And then you'll be told that's the same character. The new design is so far off what was the original design of the character that in some cases the species has changed. Again, these are rumors. These are things that are slowly being outed, more or less, that this is correct. One of the things that I heard early on is that one of the lead devs on the project has been on the record of saying that KOTOR was a terrible game. They didn't like it. And if they could remake they would change pretty much everything about it. That person has been confirmed to be one of the primary developers on the project. So yay. Yeah. That's not good. That's not what we want. We want faithful reinterpretations of faithful remakes, not a reinterpretation or reimagining where you change this stuff. Some of the developers have gone on they have been speaking now in interviews and stuff, and one of the things that they said is that while certain things in the past might have been viewed one way, when we rebuild it, we want to ask ourselves, what was the real meaning or the real idea of what this meant, and then take that and change it to fit our modern storytelling. So whenever somebody says something like that, you know that you're not going to be getting a faithful interpretation of anything you're going to be getting somebody who's going to take it and they're going to do that. That Batman with with the Mr. Freeze and all that stuff. Batman Forever, I think it was that version of stuff.
But you didn't
I
like
did
that?
not like that.
Come on, let's kick some ice.
Like some of the jokes were obviously corny and terrible, but I mean it was ridiculous as far as like a lot of things goes. And then as far as
how dare you?
As far as the more recent Star Wars movies goes, a lot of the people who had their hands in those decisions that were made for some of our favorite characters to have things done to them and to do certain things that you were like, what in the world happened? Those are the people that are now involved in the writing side of this project.
Why? Why is this? Okay, so this is BioWare,
No, this is
right?
not. This is not BioWare. BioWare has absolutely nothing to do with this. They are, as far as I know, EA has nothing to do with this either. I do not know the circumstances that has led to this, but the studio making this is not an EA studio. It's kind of a freelance studio, and the other primary organization involved is LucasArts, currently run by Kathleen Kennedy. A lot of the people that have been reportedly, again, this is a lot of reportedlies, a lot of the people that were on the High Republic thing, that story that kind of bombed really terribly. Nobody bought it. It was kind of universally panned as terrible writing. A lot of them have, again, reportedly been moved over to this project. And there are certain changes that will quote reflect the new lore under the current vision. So we're going to get we're going to get a story that is rewritten to fit the newest 3 movies, not anything else. And you're like, wait a second, this isn't even like, this is so far in advance. There's so many different things going on. Well, that's how it's going to be. So I hate to rain on parades, but this, I very much hate to say that I believe that a lot of people are going to be incredibly disappointed with this game.
Okay, so I never, unfortunately, I know this is sacrilegious to say out loud, but I never played the original Knights of the Old Republic. But from what I understand, the Old Republic takes place like 1,000 years before the events of the main films.
Several
Okay.
thousand years, yes.
Several thousand, okay. So how is it that something that takes place so far in the past is going to be influenced by canon that's happening several thousand years in the future?
That is a good question. And you might say, hey, if you're trying to shoehorn stuff into this plot, you're going to ruin the story. Which, in my humble opinion, you would be very correct. And yes.
It's like they didn't learn anything from the whole midichlorians thing. Like, why is this should be the easiest thing in the world to do. Just do what Final Fantasy VII did, minus like the ghosts flying around all over the place.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a couple of big things that people hated about the Final Fantasy story. Not everything made it into the game. Not all the events made it into the remake. And that's what we're going to have here. A bunch of storyline. Some locations are going to be drastically changed to reflect the new storytelling by the new team, who is now controlling this and directing it into the direction and story that they wish to. So, yay.
All right, well, fair enough. Bad example. I actually happen to be one of the people that appreciated what they did with the remake, even though I understand like a couple elements that they got wrong. But anyways, just a proper remake where you maintain the overarching narrative, the reason why people view that to be one of the greatest games ever, maintain the RPG elements, but update it where necessary. Update the graphics, update the combat so it looks a little bit more fluid and less blocky, just not them just swinging the lightsabers at nothing in midair and actually making contact with the things that they're trying to kill. Stuff like that. Why you have the outline there, just it should be the
Yeah.
easiest thing, but they just feel the need to
They
change
feel
it.
the need to rewrite large sections of the story because, and I'm quoting here, we're honoring the past and looking forward to the future. And so they're honoring the past by replacing it with big chunks that they want to put in that reflect the looking to the future thing. And again, this has been kind of the drum head of this movement of what everybody who's saying that's being interviewed by this, the drum head is that we're honoring the past by remaking this game, but we're looking to the future, so we're rewriting a whole bunch of it because it just didn't fit. There were certain quotas in character design that we didn't get with the original game, and those quotas now need to be filled. So again, expect some of your favorite characters in the book to be drastically and completely changed to reflect the desire for the quote-unquote new direction. And the game developer is called Aspyr, if you were wondering. And again, they're not a household name as far as like major development things go. They're more of this like floating like studio that targets things that people need help with, and then they come in, they help other studios, or they take on like smaller projects, that kind of stuff. So again, it is
seems like a similar thing is going on with the Prince of Persia remake, sort of what they did with that. And look at how that's going. It's been delayed like over a year now. Well, that's too bad. I will, by the way, I will get around to playing KOTOR at some point.
I definitely
it's on my list of
recommend
games to get to.
KOTOR 1 is one of the best games for a gaming experience. It really is. The UI is kind of terrible. There has been a remake. This is actually not the first time this game has been remade. In a sense, there is a remake that was designed to be released with a little bit newer controls, and or you can mod the original too. There is a fair number of mods that spruce things up. So I would highly recommend that. But more than that, to play that really opens the door for you to be able to play one of the greatest masterpieces, certainly one of the greatest masterpieces that is hardly ever talked about in gaming, and that is KOTOR 2. KOTOR 2 is one of the darkest and just really a very, very eye-opening story as far as the Force goes and what is happening to the Force. It really delves into some extremely deep subjects and answers a lot of very interesting questions. And it is by far it's got one of the best villains. Actually, it has 3 of the best villains that you will ever encounter. And again, if it was fleshed out a little bit more for you to have more interaction with them and stuff like that, it would be truly great. There's one of the greatest scenes in gaming cinematography, counting that, you judge everything as is or as was released at the time of, that is the fall of Kira, in KOTOR 2. If you get a chance to look that up, it's a little spoilery. Actually, it's very spoilery. I'll put my air quotes on that. It's very spoilery, but dang, is it one of the best scenes you will ever see, and the dialogue is just absolutely chilling to hear. And it also kind of like, anytime somebody's like, I love the Sith are amazing, I love the Sith, I just give them that video and let them watch that, and then they go, oh.
Yeah, they're pretty evil.
Yeah, they're really evil. People forget that. The Sith they're not passionate, pranksters that no. When they are allowed to go to their natural end, it's very terrible. Very terrible. So yeah.
Release your aggressive feelings, boy. I've heard that about KOTOR 2 as well. People telling me that there's like a huge dark not existential, but just story there that's worth giving like the max treatment to.
It is really good.
Okay, I'll look it up on Steam. Maybe it'll be one of the games that I sort of force myself to get through sooner rather than, one or two other games. Anyways, guys, I do have a hard out in like the next 5 minutes, so we're just going to have to end it there. We did have a good half an hour long discussion about this stuff. Some good stuff, like we said, in regards to the Insomniac, Project Eve, Alan Wake getting remastered, which is great, and obviously indicates that we're either getting Control 2 or Alan Wake 2, which makes me happy.
We've got to shout this out. I mean, we have to shout this out. Mass Effect 5, boys, is not being made with Frostbite. It's being made with Unreal. And Suzi's screaming like a small child, at the beginning of, like, I don't know, Christmas Day or something like that.
And not just Unreal, like, it's Unreal Engine 5. Yeah. And we all saw that tech demo that came out when that thing got officially announced. Just imagine Mass Effect with those types of graphics. Hell yes. Hell yes. And plus, it'll actually function, unlike, the Frostbite with any other type of RPG type game. Was that what they used for Andromeda? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I mean, well, there's your problem.
Not Andromeda. Yeah, Andromeda was built with the Frostbite piece of garbage, and then it's just there's a lot of problems with that current thing, and I'm so glad that they're considering it. But the fact that they've made this announcement, I'm pretty sure we can assume that let's just put Frostbite in the ground as the engine is an absolute dog pile, and not the good dog pile of like cute puppies all piled together. The dog pile that results in dogs eating too much food.
Yes. It's a positive step, given the bad aftertaste that a lot of people had with Andromeda, and not knowing what the state of BioWare is going to be like moving forward, especially after Anthem. Just hearing this, it's a good piece of news. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do, but you take the good news where you can get it, and that's about it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into Maximum News for this week. Sorry again that there wasn't another one, but we are back to a regular schedule. Saibji, just want to tell people very quickly where they can find you online.
The Triple S League. Look up the word triple, S singular league. You'll find us in a lot of places.
I'll put links to his stuff in the description box below, and you can just find me just anywhere on the internet, just at Max Darrett. I'll put links to my stuff in the description box. Thanks again, guys, and until we do this again next week, just want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.